close. Better. Good. Alright, let's find us some... Trying to find a little music here to put on, and then we'll be well underway. Maybe that'll do. We'll just go here. That will work well, I believe. Perfect. Hope everybody's having a good morning. We're gonna get this bust underway here directly. Oop. Try not to make that mistake again. Okay. I think we're actually moving now. I do need a paintbrush we can be a little aggressive with. The first thing we're going to do here is get his little tusks put on and then make a couple moves to get him primed up. Right here. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday, getting this week underway. Do a quick dry fit. I'm going to pull up the studio art.
F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me.
Good morning, Daniel. Oh, you know what? This might be easier to do. How has your week been, sir? So good morning, sir. Well, good morning back at you. We're just going to get these little bits here fixed on correctly. I kind of like the... yeah, like that. Frustrating, stupid computer. Well, what did you have to do to fix it? You said your pump went out. Did you just hook up a different heatsink? I would think that would be a fairly simple resolution to the problem. Oops, here we are. It's not fixed so much as cobbled together. Daniel, I don't know if we've talked about this, but I definitely do computer work. If you have any questions, I can help you through some of that. I don't know if I like it. Yes. I want this to be. And we're going to curl these in. We'll let that cure for just a few moments, and then we'll get this primer shaken up and prepared. In the meantime, Sven Light says, "Looks good. Is this one 3D printed?" No, this one is sculpted and resin cast. It is a bust by George. Give it a shot. Sugazidis. That's my best shot in the dark on that one. George must give us an answer. Daniel says, just need to buy either a decent air CPU cooler or a liquid one. Then I need to figure out what to replace the 3 terabyte mechanical drive with, as it's making some serious clunking noise. You know, get everything important off of that thing for sure. Damn it, Daniel says, this cast is from George Sugazidis. Yes. Zukuzidis. Thank you, Daniel. George Bulos, please correct me where I'm wrong here. Who made the bust? Yes, we've already answered that. Looks like it would be fun to paint. I am super stoked to work with this. I've painted a lot of miniatures by large companies. George is a small-scale sculptor. Well, large-scale, right? This thing is... I am 5'10", 250, right? Not small hands. This is big. This is a good-sized bust. And the detail is super nice. High quality stuff. His casting is probably the most impressive part of this. He cleaned up the one mold line that I've seen on the model prior to sending it out. So today we're going to get it primed up, and we're going to do what's called a zenithal prime. If you're not familiar, that's when you base it a dark tone and then you highlight it from above with a lighter color. More specifically, I tend to, instead of a zenith, which would be like from the highest point down, I pick a light source. I'll decide if do we want to light them from this side, from the front, from beneath. What look are we going for? And then we go from there. Just going to get this pretty well mixed up. How are you today? If anybody's stopping in, has any questions, or would like to see some of the stuff that I paint on a regular basis.
I am Diana from Kira.
Good morning, Inks. How are you today? Oh, those hairs must be really hard to paint, says Sven, S-V-E-N, Svenolite? Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Sometimes with the names, I'm just the worst. Ink says, good, how's you? I am so well. I'm super excited to get this bust underway. Let me set him like so. We'll hold him in focus for you. Yeah, these hairs are going to be quite the sphenolite. Okay, perfect. The hairs are going to be a bit tedious to get into. I've got to decide whether I want to paint them blonde or ginger, but we'll do some thinking about that. I have pretty well settled on his skin tone, and I have a really good idea of what I want to do to hobble together these different leathers. Bolo says, are you going to prime black and then use a white primer, or prime black and use white ink? So I will use the black primer, and then I will use white primer, and then I will use a white ink in specific places. I've kind of slowed down on the white ink unless it's a really nice project, because the titanium white ink blows the camera out. It can't handle how bright it is. But after I do that, I may actually skip that and just use a heavy-bodied titanium white paint out of the tube, and then I will actually sketch it in manually with my brush. I kind of like that look. I think we're in a pretty good place here. Let me... see if I did an okay job cleaning my airbrush. I didn't really clean it so much as just prepped it in the water and let it sit. There's a paint that I'm using. It's a scale 75, and it is temperamental. Tends to congeal up on me, cause some airbrush drama. All right, let's see here. We got Ink says Chris is an amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Inks. We're in this channel. This is definitely all about learning and growing and doing things to help one another. I've actually gotten a ton of questions on how I do things, and though I'm not the best painter on the planet, I am on a path to kind of, you can never master something like this, but we're trying to get better. A lot of the things that I work on are for an academic purpose, to try to grow. So, for example, skin tones scare me. So I bought a little bust that is all flesh tones, and we're working on refining the skin tones. And so they're not so scary once you get to know them a little bit. And that's why we started with this. And here we go with another daunting project. Here we're just gonna very lightly start to pick out these little details. Nothing crazy. I could probably be quite a bit more liberal with this stuff, but it's nice to kind of take these moments and get to know the little differences in the sculpts, start to see what these different details are. Svenolite says, "Awesome! I wish I could paint like you." Oh, it's good to kind of steer into the things that scare you a little bit and start to work on those little aspects that would normally drive you away. You know, in this hobby, so many of the miniatures that we select are because we really like them, like the lore of them or the interesting. It's not necessarily where you're like, oh, this guy has a cloak, I really like cloaks. Though sometimes it is. Or, you know, this hero is, you know, really powerful female character and there's just not a lot of them in this particular universe, and so you start collecting them that way. But then they sit gray or what have you on the shelf and they don't ever get kind of brought to light. They don't ever get to tell their story. That kind of bums me out, that idea. You know, I played for years from a competitive standpoint, and I'd never really invested the time to learning how to do the hobby side. And I think that was a mistake. And as I get older and I have more time to actually sit down and try to dedicate to this, I find a lot more enjoyment out of it. Oops. I'm just going to set him here like this for a minute. I think it will be more comfortable if we're a little bit closer. For me, at least. Ink says, I say scariest one for me is yellows and whites. Yeah, white. Actually, Inks, to that point, I'm going to be painting some Tau soon, and I'm going to try to paint them in a whiter armor. It's going to be a lot of grays because I'm not ready to jump right into the bold whites, but yellow is definitely on my list as well. Seven Lights is awesome. Wish you could paint like you. Anybody can paint like me. I am not very artistic from a classical standpoint. You know, I'm just a meathead that wanted to learn something about how to paint and started asking a bunch of questions. And some brilliant people who are very artistic were polite enough to take the time to answer them. And that's really what you got to do if you want to learn how to do something like this. You mostly just need to ask some questions and be brave enough to put some paint down on some plastic or resin or white metal. I didn't put very much paint in here in case there was an issue with the cleaning, spattering or anything, so I have to reload already. Bolo says, you'll never grow if you don't challenge yourself occasionally. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I'll bump this up a little bit. I'm going to have to find something to set this guy on while I'm working on him, because I think I'll fatigue trying to hold it. Be a real isometric workout. I kind of like these stitched in nobules back here. I think those would be a lot of fun to add different leather tones to. This stage can sometimes be boring and people skip it, but I like to take my time with it because, one, it's the undercoat to your whole paint job, but two, you get to know what things are and kind of what care the sculptor took. And since I know that this is a hand-sculpted piece, and, you know, George was sitting here thinking about, you know, what kind of battle wear went into his little armor here and what kind of story his face was going to tell. I think it's important to kind of go through that process with him. least in a similar way. If that makes sense. Also, as far as painting goes, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned is that there's no technique, there's very few techniques that require you to be super talented so much as very many of them require you to just be patient. Some of them are speed related, you got to be fast if you want to do it. Clean up these little stones down here, this little base. And since I can catch this angle, we'll do that now as well. Svenelite and Bolos, do either of you paint, or are you in the hobby in that respect? Or do you game? What brings you in today? I also find with priming, my preference is the thinner the coats, the better. And if you need to come back through and tidy up, which you almost certainly will, do it that way, rather than try to flood a given area. Bulo says, I'm always amazed by the little details that pop out when you start priming that were hidden. I always look forward to priming. That's good. I tend to find mold lines I missed. This is one of those steps where I'll just get my mold lines to a certain point, and I just stop. Like, if they don't jump out at me, I stop looking for them. Because I know the moment I throw some primer over it, they're going to jump out at me, and I can save some time in that respect. Especially if you're prepping up like a whole squad of miniatures. Actually, I'm going to grab a glove real quick if I'm going to be handling them. I don't want to get my my oils on this thing, especially if I'm going to try to move it around. Bolo says, I paint, don't play. The thumbnail of the bust made me check out your channel. Oh yeah? That's fun. Well, I'm glad you stopped in for that. The biggest reason why I got into the hobby, again, was I had collected miniatures from when I used to game, and they were just gray or primed up and nothing special. And as I get older, I'm 33 now, my friends don't have the time to game like we used to. And I didn't have anything to do, and I really missed getting together and playing. So for me, that was kind of a way to just still get that fix, so to speak. Trying to manipulate this thing and keep it on camera is not the easiest, so I am sorry. Oh, I splashed some paint. That's no good. We'll try to clean that up quickly. Just some paint. As long as it doesn't dry thick like that, it should be fine. I think I have answer to what just happened. I think there was just a little bit of paint up here in this nozzle. That ought to do. Svenelite says, I really like to build models, mostly sci-fi, like spaceships, but now I get into 3D printer, and I already printed some figures, but now I'm trying to get better at painting. Yeah, they kind of like lead into one another, don't they? Bolo says, I build and paint figures and scale models and a little bit of Warhammer, but mostly larger stuff. This is the largest bust I've ever gotten into. It's a, painting busts is something that I was always afraid to do. And I was recently having a conversation with another streamer, the armed painter, and he was, bringing up a message about how you shouldn't be afraid of your hobbies. You should be enjoying them. And I thought, you're right. You're very, very right. It's such a good, positive message. I need to be more about that. Not just the message, but actually living it. Oh, the glorious one himself. Hello, Badger. Oh, George, good morning. Good morning. How are you, sir? I tagged you in a post yesterday that I was going to be painting this guy today. And people seem to like it. So that's a good thing. We're going to try to find some drama in this bust. Ooh, we're ready for a little more primer. Bulos, Svenelite, George here is the sculptor of this bust. And actually, while we're on that subject, let me just go here to the... Since Bulos, you are a big fan of painting on the busts. There you go. There's a link to George's store if you want to check out the incredible works he turns out. Plenty of different styles in there. They're all unarguably his style, but they fit different fantasy niches. Bola says, messed up from an accident and have acquired a brain injury. I like painting because my care workers and other people never tell me how to do that, or I'm doing it wrong like everything else I do around the house. We got the Badger on the host. We got Ink say, I also saw me start my first bust and I can't paint for toffee. Good morning, Badger, back at you. Bullo says, I got a figure yesterday and it's almost a meter tall. Oh wow, it's Ciri, C-I-R-I, from the Witcher 3 game. Glorious Badger says, I hope next year I can get a bust or two. Yeah, Badger, you got to stretch your legs on that. Just to watch your non-metallic growth over the last couple of months it's like you started hitting your stride with that stuff. I'm loving this hood the more I get to see it. Maybe be, yeah, think that's all right. Svenilite, thank you so much for the follow. Making that Corky Wiggle is one of the biggest reasons I get up at 5:30 in the morning to stream. At this point, we're pretty much disappearing the whole dwarf, but in a moment, we'll be bringing him back to life in a pretty dramatic way. I'm just going back through and picking out any areas that maybe didn't get full coverage. Svenilite says, yeah, George, really nice details, good job. Badger says, I really want to improve the non-metallic stuff this coming year and work on some bigger projects. Some great goals to have. Everybody shouting out to Badger. Ink says, I'm waiting for George to do a siren bust. A siren would be gorgeous. Bulo says, who did the paint up for the orc on the front page of your webpage, George? Ink says, I'm good, Badger, just repairing my skull shrine. Ink, sometimes when you talk like that, people have questions. Skull shrine. Maybe one of the few communities where that's just a normal thing to say to somebody. Trying to get some good coverage here. I don't want to... I never like to rush. One of the worst things ever is just to have a little bit of bare primer in here. And be like real mad. Or bare primer, but bare resin. His beard is very thirsty. All these little details to soak up primer and material. George says the orc was painted by my friend from Taiwan. George, I have a question. Because I've heard I was looking up other people that have worked on this bust, and I heard them say that these little add-on pieces were tusks. These are continuations of his braids, correct? On his beard? Ink says traditional sirens are men that they lure to the death. Oh, 8 men. Yes, they did. Oh, you glued it up wrong. George says yes. Thank you, George. Let's hit up these. I'm just going to do this very quickly here. Get some primer on these rocks. Oops, I suppose we can turn it. Maybe a little bit more primer, huh? Bigger projects demand bigger amounts of paint, I suppose. What does everybody think we should do his face with one of those classically red noses that they give the dwarves? I kind of like that look. I'm just gonna grab this up here real quick and make sure I'm not missing any little details underneath some of these filigrees and buttons on his hood. I say all that about the hood, and then here I see some on his beard. Okay, I think that suits the bill. I'm going to dump my little excess primer back into, we'll set it like so people can see. Inks is sharing a picture. Oh, you have to bear with me, Inks. I gotta get this jug open. Oh, sorry about bumping the mic, guys. I'll have a look at that picture here in a moment. Just the face should be shooty, like he is a miner. Sooty. I got you. Svenolite says, do you only stream in the morning? Because I have holiday at the moment, but normally I work till evening. Sometimes I stream in the evening. Genuine Vision's coming in with a thick raid of 80 people. My word. Look at all of these people. Good morning, everybody. How are you all doing today? Massive raid. Look at all this. Jan, how are you now? You classy gentlemen, you. Snickernack Studios, making that corgi wiggle in the morning. Good morning, Mikey RR. How are you today? I'm just getting ready to clean out my airbrush and do the Zenithal Prime where we find the volumes. Hope everybody was having a good day with Crocodiles in here as well. Mr. Protocol. Hello, Genuine sent me. Yes. I'm sorry if I'm missing chat a little bit here. Things are, with all the raid emotes, flying by me. Mama466, visit from your mom. Good morning. Snickernack says, catching you right before bed, leaving a lurk. Have a great stream. I'm glad to have you. Hope everybody had a good day. What is it? Wednesday for me. Could be Thursday for some of you. Now, I'm just taking a little bit of care here to empty out my airbrush. So while I'm doing that, how's everybody doing? What is anybody working on? Jan, I'm not going to ask you for a picture of something you just did, but Jan says, not bad. Bloody starving, and I'm going to slide out for a wee minute and grab some brekkie. Well, hopefully you don't tease me too much with it. Jan always has the most wonderful breakfasts. I'm usually sitting out here having some coffee. Crocodile says, wait, bloody Twitch at the unfollows again. Crocodile, what happened? It happens. That's a real thing. Sometimes I say, oh, sure, Twitch did it. But then it happens to me, and I think, oh, they're correct. Ink's doing a shout-out. Inks, I need to set up shout-outs. I don't know how to correct that. Everybody joining us, welcome. Glad to have you. We are working on a George Zukuzidis. Hopefully, we are getting closer. Sculpt. That's a link to George's work. I just checked. I'm still following. And if anybody is interested in the things that I generally work on, don't mind my mouse. I have very limited space here. I use a lot of a lot of paints, and I can't find them back on the rack. But there's a link to my Instagram. That's where most of the work gets done. I have but one social that I actually use. And right now we're getting ready to apply a zenithal highlight of white paint onto this dwarven guy. I'm going to get a little more paint because he's a big old boy. So typically this comes from the top. We gotta find some camera angles here, huh? Let's have a look. Let's see what we can't do. I started out with this quite a bit higher. We're going to have to also double check the music, huh? Everything's happening right now. All right. Like you said, just check still following. It says can't help you sort out a bot for shout out. Yeah, Inks, I'd love the help here. We can do some work on that later. George says absolutely correct. Thank you, George. Nailed it, finally. Crocodile says just randomly doesn't sometimes. Badger says how's things at Croc? And Crocodile's having had to follow certain people like 2 to 3 times at least, and I always wonder why I hadn't seen them in a while. Twitch is hiding them from you. Okay, so here we are. We're in focus a little bit, and I'm going to try to start bringing the zenithal down. We'll start to pick out all these lovely details that George sculpted for us. And in this way, you pay a lot of respect to the different volumes that the artist took the time to create. A little focus on his face here. You're going to need a little more paint, huh? Like he says, it's the mighty badger. Crocodile says he's melting right now. I hope not. I'm freezing my toes off right now. Like he says, a glorious badger trying to decide if I've got the energy for lunchtime gym before work. Nomadic Chris, what color primer did you use? So I just used black primer, and now I'm using a white primer. These are both, speaking of Badger, his namesake. This is Badger Stynylrez primer. Jim Bono Sarimbo. Bono Sarimbo, 21. Jimbo, how are you today? But yeah, these are both Stynylrez primers, just black, then white. And the interesting thing when you lay white over black, you get smooth gradients. So when you do that, you're going to get pure white at the highlight, and then you'll get this nice transition into gray as it gets less and less opaque over the black. Black kind of steals its identity a little bit. I will leave much of this area back here in black. So on the other side, pay much more attention up here as I zoom in on these details in the front. We're going to start to get a lot more of that white. But again, we're just firing from this angle. Just some in general fill here because it's in the front. These little gems down here. Just grabbing out these little filigrees that are down here. Sorry, this is not the most exciting portion of things, but it helps give me a guideline for what's going to come, and I think it's super beneficial to kind of get to a better idea of what's going on with the sculpt. Crocodile says it was 40 degrees yesterday Celsius. Oh, wow. Quite a bit warmer than it is here. Mikey says, I thought it looked a bit brown. Brown? Motor City Ray. Good morning, sir. How are you today? Just cleaning out my airbrush now that we have this guy pre-shaded. We're going to go through and be a bit more manual with our skin tones here in a moment. Okay. I don't think I need to worry too much about the airbrush at this stage. I think we'll be being a bit more manual here for a little bit. So I'm going to set that aside. That way we don't have to fuss around too much. We can actually get moving. Jimbo says, I saw this bust posted on Reddit today. Imagine my surprise in seeing it on Twitch. Who posted it on Reddit? I posted it on Instagram last night. Somebody reposting things? Crocodile says, at Mikey, not sure my area got the hot mat. Got that hot mate. Why can't I read today? I've been just kind of dying in the lounge and trying to sparingly use air conditioner. Oh man, I'd be dead in that heat. Mikey, that'd take me out as well. It's roughly 22 Fahrenheit here, which is like a negative something Celsius. Crocodile says, it isn't ideal. No good. We got Learn, Train, Play in the building. Anybody's looking to adapt or adopt some good work ethic, that's your man to learn it from. Coffee's keeping me alive here. All right. I get my palette open, and we're going to come through and, just like I did with the count, we're going to start sketching some details on this guy. And I think to do that, the best way is probably to come in at possibly this angle. Pretty good focus there, I hope. Is it better if I pick him up? Yeah, so we'll come down even a little bit more. I'm going to leave him rest on my palette so that we're in focus, because I can't, there's no way I'll be able to hold this monster steady. Okay. And so, one of the things that I do a lot when I'm going to paint on things, and you'll see a lot of people just airbrush titanium white over top of something, but Genuine says at Motor City Ray, morning, Jab. Yes, but here I'm just going to take some heavy-bodied white. This is a titanium white. I'm going to put it down like this, and then we'll just kind of push it around. Kind of like a two-brush blend, so to speak. Just with a wet brush, we'll just push it around. I kind of like that. And so, if I, for example, want to lay down some titanium white along this ridge, that's probably okay and it wouldn't need much, but by coming through with a little wet brush, we can sort of feather it, erase it from an area, and kind of further build into the drama of the sculpt. And so that's where we're going to go with this. We're just going to mop these things together. Just like this. Genuine asks, where is that gorgeous sculpt from? It is from George Sukuzidis' website. Ishirna? Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Thank you so much for the follow. Learn Train Play says, damn, I want to paint more chaos, but I don't have primer, so it looks like I have to paint my Shadow Warriors instead. Oh, man. I'm going to get you a link to this stuff, Jen. There it is. Oh, God. Throwing stuff. I'll do the same thing up here. And some of these little details. Possibly even over here. Hopefully that's registering. I know this white can be sometimes very bright. Just tidy these up. Possibly back here on these cheekbones. Just stipple it in a little. And then with our cleanup brush, just sort of pull it towards the peaks. Maybe pull it away. You can also stipple it to get things to blend out. And that's always nice as well. And like this, if you ever realize you got a little bit of paint on your brush, you can just sort of apply it places so you don't have to put it in your mouth. Which is more what I like to do. Here, I just kind of put that down, and then now I sort of erase it. Just like here, we'll apply it at this highlight, and then we'll push it away from where it should be getting more dull, so it'll collect more on that ridge it needs to be on. Then we can take this excess, sort of apply it to the top of these. Where we want to have that shiny spot. Learn to and Play says, oh no, I can base some more blue horrors. There you go. Roll with it. Ishirna says 100% correct. Perfect. I want to get back into painting. It's really inspiring to watch you and Jan painting. Thank you for your streams. Jan is an incredibly inspirational person and a fantastic artist. He's a little saucy too. Down here on this little button, I just put that little shiny mark. And here I'm just going to lay down, like I'm right beside it. What I'm doing is just kind of moistening the area. And then I'll agitate the brush. And it'll feather out that highlight a little bit. Also limit where it's that strong. That's nice. Here we'll hit the top ridges of these little straps. I'm catching the top ridge of this button. You can actually start moving pretty quick with this. Just like that. Feather these things a little bit. Has anybody been working on anything fun? Motor City Ray gifting out that sub. Thank you so much. Very kind, and thank you to Maddie Chris. Yeah. And thank you for turning out the good work. We got, is it Danny M? Just they picked the darkest blue they could possibly have given you, saying, I love Jan's work. Who couldn't? Objectively, Jan's one of the better painters in Twitch. If you're asking me for who I think it is, he's gonna get one of my votes. I'm gonna do these little, where these knot work is crossing over. We're gonna put a little highlight there. We're gonna do it again over here. Nope, I want a little more. And then that same thing we were talking about before. We feather that out. Maybe we'll put a little bit back here just for the fun of it. I don't like to, generally speaking, draw people's attention to the rear of the model, but this thing is so massive that I think we're going to treat every little piece of it as something a little bit special. Get this little horn here. Catch up with chat. George says, good morning to Motor City Ray. Everybody better be shouting out Ray. Here we go down here. tidy up these little bits of horn. I think a little bit more up here would be nice. Go a little bit brighter. Especially across here. Just same on this side. Try to keep these nice little lines to separate things. We're going to try and play with a link here from Instagram. Give me just a moment. So I finished my Avatars of War, Sorceress of Lust. Have a peek at that. If anybody's not familiar with Learn, Train, Play, they're always turning out some great work. Where are we at here? Helps if I share the screen. What we have here says, finished Avatars of War, Sorceress of Lust. These models are all so spooky. The skin tones, and even their fabrics. Like, we got a little booty hanging out here. Oh, I know this guy. I've seen this skull before. He's got, this guy up here's got those chicken feet on him. The little bird claws. Super spooky. I dig it. Motor City Ray with the shouts out to Jan. There it is. Alright. Get a little more paint here. Okay. Where were we? And on this side, we'll be working the other direction. And I'm not going to put any down there. I think that's too stark. Let's see. Up here, though, this bullhorn ought to be something special. So here we'll take some care, take our time to pay respect to it, because that's a focal point. And again, because I got this just a little bit on the brush, we'll feather her out. Apply a little manual. Just like this. I like to think this bust could, you know, this dwarf was actually so important that they created something like this of him. Like maybe him being a hunter, he was looking for a dragon. He wasn't just a out there looking for subsistence hunting. He was looking for some glory in his time. Dwarves are always my favorite D&D race. I don't know what everybody else enjoys playing as, or if anybody else in here plays. I know Ray does. I haven't been able to play D&D in many years. A couple editions ago at least. There we go. I think that's starting to look like something. Actually, from the camera, the places I'm making super bright are doing that thing that I was worried about using the ink for, where they are so white We're kind of blowing things out. Got Danny M6602 with the follow. This piece looks really nice. Piper looks really nice, by the way. Jan, yeah, Jan is working on those what are they called, Judgment minis. And they are phenomenally sculpted. I would like to get to a place where I could afford a few of them, paint some up. I think the game would be fun as a whole, but it's hard. Like they're 50 something a model to want to get into, as like a one off or two off, because I want to play. So I'm not looking at it as like a $50 or $100 investment. The thing we're going to be in quite a bit, because like I said, I like dwarves. I'm also a sucker for a minotaur. Jim, what made you get into that game? Are you really enjoying it? I remember when you did your Blackstone Fortress stuff, you were telling me about how it was nice that it was you could play it single. And that may have just been because I brought up not being able to game as much. Our conversation was a while back. Back when Jan's stream was just a pup and I was barely watching streams. Nalindy. Well, hey, how are you? How are you, Nomadic Chris? Nalindy, how are you? I'm doing just fine. I'm painting a dwarf. Can't be too bad at all, huh? Jen says, at Nomadic Chris, Judgment, played against Reiner72 last Adepticon and loved the game. Plus, the minis are so friggin' gorgeous. That's what I'm saying. There's some so fun looking. The sculpts are super dynamic. Well, Nalindy, I'm glad you're doing well. I wish our schedules matched up more and I could catch your stream. As it is, I can occasionally lurk, but if anybody in here is not following her, they do a wonderful stream, excellent community, as with everybody that's in here that streams. Ray and Jan. I know Daniel was in here earlier. Inks is in here. Just, there are good parts to this community, and I'm very thankful that they tend to hop in here, even if just to say hi. Lindy says, thank you for lurking. Lurkers are the backbone of Twitch. They're the lifeblood of Twitch, at least this community. The the creative thing really hasn't been promoted too much, but one day it will, and hopefully we're not forgot. All right, here I'm just trying to feather out these horns a little bit, keep them smooth. In a moment, we'll come through and bolden up the other side. We'll come in with some black. That's the real magic part. right there. I do enjoy this part. Sometimes there's beauty in the absence of color. Inks and Ray having a little hug off over there. All right, what's everyone think? We starting to get somewhere with this? Ink says, love watching you stream and paint. It's relaxing. I'm glad it is. At this hour, it's hard to be super exciting. At least for me. Ink says, needs more white. Alright, let's get a little... For this, I'm going to take some black and then a little bit of my... I've got Payne's Gray ink here, which is super dark. It's about as black as you can get while still being blue, if that makes sense. Just going to put a couple of drops of this in there. I find the Payne's Gray gives you something to look at in the black, and it makes it almost look darker than black. Gives that a little, gives it a little colored effect. All right, and then actually, I think for the volume of black that I laid out, we're going to put a couple more drops in. This isn't changing any of the opacity or anything. It's just adding a little bit of pigment to the mixture. Maybe swaying the pigment a certain direction. Okay. Make sure I got all that out of here. Paintbrush is clean as well. I'm going to be watering this black back quite a bit into a glaze. And I'll start down here in one of these recesses underneath this, because it's going to be very, very dark back here. I'm just going to pack this in. We'll take our cleanup brush. We'll feather it back. We'll layer this in, a couple of these little recesses, and push it back in. So it's like a controlled wash as we work our way down. We'll push it off these highlighted areas. We may need to re-highlight after this, but I think it's a good idea. Needs more cowbell, says Learn to Rain Play. You need more cowbell. I'm just going to sink this into these recesses carefully. And if I don't make a mistake, then we don't have to clean it up. There's a whoopsie. So. Go for that stark contrast between the rear plate and the filigree. I think that adds something to the model on its own. Okay. These recesses here. A little bit of that. N1 in the room. How are you, N1? Oh, God. Put the paintbrush instead of the cleaning brush in your mouth. You're having a bad time. People talk about or joke about eating the paint water. I've never done that, but I have put the paintbrush in my mouth instead of the clean brush. That has happened. I've done that on stream. Mr. Shy, good day, sir. How are you? Hit these little areas underneath these tufts. Clean them back. I need quite a bit more paint here. Tidy this up. Darken this area here. Shy says, all the better for seeing you, mate. Been in Leicester 3 days. Already don't want to go back to Bath. Danny says, I'm currently painting a mini the size of a little fingernail. A little miniature. That's normally what I paint. What kind of miniature? Is it a fantasy or sci-fi? For those of you not familiar with Mr. Shy, brilliant streamer. No, I do not have shout-outs, but if you right-click on his name, you can give him a sweet follow. I know many of you already are, but incredible 2D artist who is rapidly applying those years of skill to a 3D world and working on some miniatures again. the biggest reason I did not bother getting too much into highlighting the beard. I think what I may do is actually whip up like a really strong wash and then just bathe some of these areas a little heavily. I mean, I'm okay, but I'm no nomadic Chris. Shy, you devil. We got Badger in here. Community staple. If anybody's looking to have a party while they watch some incredible paint, that's a stream to be in. I feel like every time I hop in there, Badger's got some rave music on. Clan Wolf, well, good day. It's in KDM. Also, good morning. I'm at work, so this is all I get to watch. Well, we're glad to have you. But a 40k Nurgle part of the Blight Spawn it is. I'm sure people in here are more familiar with what that is than me. I am the worst 40k fan on the planet. I love on their models, but I know very little about like their names and such. Unless we're talking like several years ago, and then I might know something. I may remember something, I should say. What do we got here? So many folds. Everybody's painting Mephiston these days. What's up with that? Did Games Workshop launch a new model? Just tidy it up a little bit. Inks is in the lurk. Jan says, not too bad, fella. Weather over here is feffin' horrid, though. Shy says to Jan, it's pretty gray in the land of pork pies and red cheese, too. Shy says, so many folds. me to myself every time I shower. Good God, Shy. Clanov says, yeah, it's a bit on the cold side this morning, -5. Good God. What we got here? Let's see. 23 here. Not ideal for me. Dab this thing off here. All right. We're doing pretty good so far. Keep this train up here. Ooh. Need to fix that one. That's all right. Nothing a little paint can't help. Let's get a little more specific here. Start working our way up to where things matter. Shai says, Ray, you cutie. Hello there, you clever artist. Look at you two. Danny says, I have to cycle to work in this weather. Gross. Gross, gross, gross. Shai says, I'm neither of those things, and you take it back. Shai, you'll take your compliment. Let's feather these back here. Get a nice shadow. Ooh. No, I did not. I didn't. Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay. Okay. Nostril. Shai says, you sound like my nurse with my meds. You have a nurse give you meds? You're the nut to my dough. What kind of nut bar are you making over there, Ray? And we'll start to bring out this drama around all these little folds in his eye. I really dig this step. You can really bring in a lot of detail work here. A lot of the things that George took the time to sculpt can really be brought to life with just a few brush strokes. or they can be blown out and forgot forever. I'll get the music here in just a second. So I'll peek. Ray said, "You're the." Shy says, "Ray, you are the sprinkles to my glaze." Ray, do they have Jimmy's? Can you get those up where you're from? I don't know. Shy, are Jimmy's the thing that you get over where you're at either? I don't know if that's like a Pittsburgh thing or not. They're like a chocolate sprinkle. Fix yourself. Back in here. These eyes are certainly not the place to take a shortcut, huh? Danny says, "Getting frustrated now with this model." What's going on? What's got you all frustrated? There's quite a bit of... Try to darken these areas just a little bit. Later, Crocodile. Got to head out. Have a nice day. Croc, will catch you later. Danny says the model's not going to plan. Jan says, "Ugh, I hate updating CV." CV. Comma separated values? There's a CSV. What's a CV? You're starting to look gnarly here. It's a resume. Okay. Dragonheart 305. Good morning back at you. Welcome. We're painting a dwarf. How are you today? Oh, there we go. Is it a 3-pod or an E-pod? E-pod on off? Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. How are you today? There we go with Danny M with the host. Thank you so much for thinking about me like that. Every little bit goes a very long way. Hope everybody's morning or afternoon is going well. Oh, no, Lindy. Look at that. Got a little host train going. Thank you so much. I know I don't really go out of my way to advertise my stream, so I'm always super excited whenever people happen to find their way in. Just like we did before on all these little leather bits with the titanium white, we'll be taking our darker mixture and applying it to the bottom and kind of erasing it back. Kind of countering or mimicking what we did on the other side. Dragonheart says, good two-brush blending technique. Wife doesn't go for the brush in the mouth thing, though. It's a clean brush for the most part. As long as you don't get too much paint on it. You can always just rinse it. Motor City Ray with a host. Thank you, Ray. And Inks has offered to help me set up a bot of sorts to get my shoutouts going. So we'll get those underway here. So many little details in here. This thing is awesome. don't think that last one even needed to be blended. Nailed it. A little bit of this up in here. How are you today, Dragonheart? So shout out to Motor City Ray. Guess that doesn't work either. Just trying to help. Thank you so much. We got Orthober Studios coming in. Everybody get ready. Good morning, Orthober. How are you today? Manufacture the finest wood in all of Twitchdom. Orthober Studios says, good and you. Well, I am well. We are just painting up on this derf. Getting the Grisaille sketch going. Ooh, let's get his eyes a little more dramatic. Look at that. Spooky. Embrail says, good morning, everyone. Well, good morning back at you. Welcome, welcome. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. For those of us up that are living in the cold, I hope you're staying warm. Orthober, Clan Wolf, Ray, I know for sure. Jan, I can't imagine it's any, and Shy, I can't imagine it's any nicer up for you. Pick out these little details here. Sometimes I like to bounce around a little bit. Helps me bounce around the model a little bit. Helps me keep things fresh, keep a clean eye on things. If I look at something for too long, sometimes I can lose it. Let's see about these details. Umbro says it's way down to 29 in Dallas. Yeah, it's 23 up here in Pennsylvania. Dragonheart says 72 on the front porch here in Florida. How nice it must be. Orthober's got that balmy 3. Well, Dragonheart, on the plus side, Orthober doesn't have to look out for gator attacks. So, you know, pythons, gators, enjoy your 72. You're living in the jungle down there. Danny says, I've sorted out my issue, just couldn't get the creases on the skin shaded. It's so hard sometimes. Emerald says she'll warm up this weekend. Hopefully. I don't like when it gets bitter cold for too long. Ray says it's already a balmy 21 with a high of 30. Can't wait for the heat wave. Yeah, 35 and raining. That's how the heat waves work around here. At least this time of year. Get a little more water on this brush. Let's see about... Ooh. Kind of helping some of these details disappear. Just kind of feather them back. All right. What now? Let's get these. Some nice general shading back there. And let's complement our highlights by fixing these areas right beside them that aren't quite dark enough. Check out these little notches here. Maybe that'll be a nice place to build some contrast. These little cuts. Maybe while we're at it, we can do a nice gradient. Orthovis says, I think it's supposed to get up to 11 today. Right now with the wind chill. Wind chill. Oh, having like bus stop flashbacks. Jan says 21 Celsius. I'd like to be that warm right now. No, not 21 Celsius. 21 Fahrenheit. Which is like, what, 30 for you is 0. Or no, 0 for you is R30. So you should be... Actually, for highlight, just bring it this way. Let's see if I can do that. Okay. How about through here? A little bit more water in the ink. How about now? Ooh. Made a whoopsie. Don't do this to me. Rude. We'll have to touch that up. I didn't pay attention. Nobody told me. Let's see if we can pull a straight line here. Tidy that up. Not ideal. Try to clean it up quickly. Genuine says feffing wind, rain is what we have now. Supposed to go back for a run later. Yeah, rain check. There you go. Shy says general shading. A warm day for us is 14 Celsius. Cold? No, that's not cold. I'm making an assessment, Lindy. That's not cold. But there's something about those harsher climates that kind of make harder people. Also, in general, I feel like it makes nicer people. HIMYM game. Don't believe so, Shy. Not familiar with it, the acronym at least. Shy says, whenever anyone says that sounds like an army officer, you have to salute. Like general problems, major issues. Is that How I Met Your Mother? That's what that is. I remember what that's from. I do. It's actually really fun when you keep it going for a long time. Yeah, well, you know, I figured I wasn't 8, so I skipped it. I'm kidding. Let's cut this cheek here. Sorry about the camera work. Just get pain in my nose. Surprised it hasn't happened more often. Even though this is on the highlight side, we still need some separation. There we have it. What else? What else? I know what else. Shai says, yes, camera work is fine. DC says, hey, Chris and Jet. Well, hey, back at ya. Welcome, welcome. How's everybody today? DC, doing well? I hope. See if we can clean up this boo-boo I made down here. We're just reclaiming some of these areas where maybe I was a little too aggressive. Mm-hmm. There we go. We'll feather that transition just so gently. That'll give us exactly what I was looking for in the beginning. Do the same thing up here. That's a little stark. It's from that titanium white that I put on it. Just no problem. Just have to be a little bit gentler with our feathering brush here. Let's see if I can't cover that up. Also reclaim some of this filigree down into the contrast. Okay, could look good. DC says, doing well, thanks. Just getting last minute Christmas stuff. That sculpt is amazing. It's a George Sokuzidis sculpt. It's very nice. I'm loving getting to know it. And Nalindia's here. Badger was here. Shai's around. Jan's in here. All talking about the weather, of all things. breathe some life into a little bit of this white that I have over here. This is not the full-on titanium. This is just a standard white, like our primer, but with a little bit more concentrated effort here. I think up in here we can really get some nice drama by this transition. Could look pretty good. How have you been, DC? Anything cool going on? Staying warm this time of year, I hope. Unless you're in a very nice and warm climate, and then we don't want to hear about it. I'll still hear about it, but you know what I'm saying. Fix these couple of little... Where's that other one over here? There we go. DC says, do you have a color scheme in mind for the sculpt? We're going to do his beard. I cannot decide whether I want to do a ginger beard or a blonde beard on him. I'm just not certain. I might open up a poll on Instagram. See what people think. Everybody paints their dwarves with a ginger beard, so I was thinking maybe a blondie bear. Do something a little bit different, you know? Well, it has been surprisingly warm here. And the Lindy says, I always go blonde with dwarves. There you go. Is that a personal preference thing, Melindy, or do you like just doing something different? Because that's what I was thinking. Be a little different. Danny says, be good to be in Australia right now. DC says, well, it has been surprisingly warm here in Scotland, so I can't complain just yet. I do have a mini to paint, but just not had the time recently with Christmas madness. I hear that. I can tell you it'd be very convenient, if not for this stream, to put down the brushes for a little while. We're going to claim back some of these areas here. I think we went a little too dark in. And to ensure that that's the case, we'll just sop some of this up so it only has some coverage and not total opaque passage through these areas. I think we're just a little too thin to clean it up that quickly, so we'll do it just like this, and then wait a few moments, and then we'll clean it up. But yeah, I think we're starting to come together here. Oh, it's already 7:30. Goodness. This party has got to come to an end. What have we done? DC says, I do like salt and pepper look for beards. I can give that a look. I think I am going to start up a poll. We'll try to see what people want to see. If anybody wants to get in on that, I'll do it on Instagram today. Here is a link to the Instagram. I'll put that up here after I get a nice photo of what we have going on. Yeah. I didn't realize what time it was. I gotta get things squared away here for work. What kind of streams do we have active at this hour? Oh, there's a stream that I never get to catch. I think I don't see anybody else on. Let's go pass some love on to somebody that yes, Danny, I do have Insta. If you're not following me, you should be. It's pretty much the coolest miniature Instagram in all of Instagram. I paint and I take bad pictures and I let people see what it is. You do not have to, Dragon. I will post an Instagram live. I may do an actual post with an updated photo of him from what we've done today here directly. And then off of that, we'll be able to do that. So that poll will be up within the next half hour, okay? Let me see what we have here. Okay, and yeah, give me a little while to get that up. Like I said, it won't take too long. If you're not already following me, just give me a quick follow, and then I'll do it both an Instagram live, and I'll also do a post as well. Okay, we'll put the poll up, and you can comment or vote in the poll, whatever works for you. And we're gonna go raid this beautiful person that is always in, I think, just everybody's streams, and I never get a chance to pay them back for all the time and effort they put in. I don't know if they're still lurking, so we're not going to say any names. We're just going to do this. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I know we're midway through the week, and don't let Wednesday get you down. Wednesday's not a big deal. Wednesday's just another day. All right. Yeah, everybody have a good day. Shy, I'm glad you stopped in. It's good to see you. I feel like we haven't talked at all this week, which is no good. No good at all. But yeah, let's go see what Inks is up to.
Oh, we're being raided. No matter, Chris. We talking about an awesome raider, awesome painter. Chris is an awesome person. And yep, my bot worked. Thank you for the follow. How is everyone? How are you, Chris? Chris is a dedicated streamer. He wakes up early just so he can stream before he goes to work. Woot woot. Hey Ray, how you doing? If you don't know Ray, I'll give him a shout out. He also streams, he also plays D&D. Lovely people. Both him and Chris are both lovely, both charming people. So please give them a follow. How? All the follows. Hey, Dammit Daniel. I'll give Dammit Daniel a shout out. Can't remember what his command is now. Dammit Daniel also has his own personal command. He gave me one in his stream. He's got one in my stream.